The following short documentary is in no way intended to force upon or alter the beliefs of the viewer. Though all information has been verified through research, it has been created for entertainment purposes only.
There are undoubtedly numerous topics in existence that are covered in a semi-transparent film of bullshit. And yes, I was meant to say semi-transparent. The bullshit isn't invisible. Upon closer inspection, one can see the hypocrisy in almost everything. We present to you 5 topics, along with our honest opinions on each one. In order to find gold, you gotta get your hands dirty. It's the same with everything, really. If you find happiness at the end of your pursuit, then good for you, you struck gold. Everyone strikes gold though, at least once in their lives. But there's a big difference between merely striking gold and actually getting dirty enough to keep it. Because, here's the thing. If you found happiness, but found it without trial and error, mark my words, your happiness will be short-lived. Quite honestly, our appreciation for light becomes apparent only after the sun has set. We only really pay attention to our appreciation for warmth when the sun is covered by the darkened clouds. No matter whether you're shaping or reshaping, defining or redefining, what happens tomorrow all boils down to what we do and how we do it in the present. The biggest lesson I have learned is that, in order to find some level of success in life, no matter the area, there are 3 key practices that one must implement. First, you must be kind. Second, you must be kind. And third, you must be kind. But only a fool learns a lesson, but fails to implement, and I admit that I am a fool. But it drives home my point. If it were not for being foolish, we wouldn't appreciate wisdom. So, remember these words, spoken by Winston Churchill. Success is stumbling from failure to failure, with no loss of enthusiasm. Science stands firm in its belief that everything is, was, and always will be in a state of evolution, an ever-transforming and adapting process. New life to suit a new age. Religion argues this, stating that everything in existence was made possible by a godly entity, and it must be fact, because it's written in a book. One human believes in a god, another human chooses science. A third human is an atheist and just doesn't give a shit. But, to religion, science and atheism, I ask you this. We all undoubtedly have one thing in common, and that's death. So, no matter what or how you believe we came into existence, what is the point of existing if death is the destiny of every man? What is the point of blood, sweat and tears when you take nothing you've accumulated with you to the grave? Show me a monkey that's becoming a human. Show me proof of a biblical past other than words written in a book. Not one person can truly define the meaning of life, but each person will argue that their beliefs are correct. Yet, each and every one of us agrees with death. If there is a genuine meaning to life, what's the point? When any one of us could die tomorrow. It doesn't matter whether the negative affliction is physical or mental. Whether it's the common cold or depression. We seek a cure, a remedy, because we've experienced good health. When we battle financially, we crave the security of abundance and our needs being met. This occurs because we have experienced positive financial times. There is, without a doubt, more chaos in the world than there is order. Yet man yearns for peace. If the Bible and history books are to be trusted, why do we cry for peace when no man has ever truly experienced it? If I ask you to describe peace, you'd give me a definition quite similar to what could be found in a dictionary. But what if I ask you to tell me, what does peace really feel like? What does it feel like to be able to breathe underwater? What does it feel like to be in space? What does it feel like to have free will? Just like peace, the experience of these events are nothing but thought. They are merely imagined experiences. There is no emotional connection to truly define a legitimate feeling. You can write a best-selling book about peace. You can paint a masterpiece depicting peace. But the book and the painting will be nothing but an expression of happiness that is based on the premise of hope. The fact is, since man's existence on earth, deceit and corruption have played a role in some way or the other. Happy endings exist in fairy tales. When is the beautiful princess and her knight in shining armor shown on the news? Never. Because that's reality. Both the Bible and a history book give detailed descriptions of war and destruction. And neither of them gives us such detail when it comes to peace. Scripture says it will happen one day, but Scripture fails to tell us when. The question shouldn't be, when will we have peace? But rather, why the hell are we suffering in the first place? Stop believing in the concept of free will. It doesn't exist. There is a difference between having the ability to say yes or no and having a right to. All of us are governed by laws. This defines limitations. And freedom has no limits. When we agree and say yes, we are never offered a reward. When we argue and say no, it is usually met with punishment. The slave has no right to be independent because he has an owner. An employee has no right to implement executive decisions because he has a boss. The community has no right to make its own rules because they have the police. Humanity has no right to change the world because of government. Free will is nothing but an illusion, an indirect form of hypnosis. Bait for those too weak to think for themselves. What we do have is conformity. We are to be obedient. We are to sing of free will only, with our hands on our hearts, like frail, dedicated fucking puppets. Yes, I know. You're going to tell me that free will is spoken of biblically, that it came from God. Believe what you will. Call it scientific, call it holy. But remember this, that is the same God that limited man with commandments and laws. Free will does not exist. I do not doubt the existence of otherworldly entities. I do not argue the possibility of a godlike existence. I have personal experience with the supernatural. I know they exist. My curiosity, though, begs an answer to what I'm going to say next. I begin with scripture. I present to you not my own ideas, but what is written in the Bible. At Genesis chapter 3 and verse 22. God clearly states that man has become like one of us. There is a clear indication that God speaks of two different beings. Man has become like one of us. This too shows the existence of more than one God. In the New Testament of the Bible, we are shown that we shall endure tribulations. But there is also significant mention of hope. It says in 1 John chapter 4, verse 8, that God is love. In the New Testament, however, God has no direct interaction with man. But he did in the Old Testament. And the God of the Old Testament was not a God of love. In the Old Testament, God ordered Moses and his brother Aaron to go before the Egyptian Pharaoh. This was for the release of the Israelite people. When Pharaoh declined, God allowed Moses to perform acts of magic which are biblically unacceptable. This did not work as the magic was replicated by Pharaoh's magic practicing priests. And so God brought upon Egypt the first plague. Did Pharaoh's heart remain stubborn by choice, even throughout the first 6 plagues? No. We read in Exodus chapter 7, verses 2 and 3 what God himself said. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land, and I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. Throughout the onslaught of the plagues, Pharaoh's heart was continuously hardened. God then finalized everything by taking the lives of the firstborn in Egypt. This same God later gave Moses the commandment that, thou shalt not kill. Contradiction, vengeance, hatred, killing. These are not the traits of a loving God. The Spirit who spoke to Eve in the garden told her the truth, that she would become like God. He didn't lie, for God later confirms it and stopped man from having everlasting life. The Spirit in the garden and the God of the New Testament are both a complete opposite to the Old Testament God. When we take a look at the world we live in, it becomes clear just which God we are actually praying to.